Welcome, everyone. Lots to discuss tonight, including new visa rules for non-EU nationals in the United Kingdom. Now, they all go into effect today. Now, this step impacts a significant number of Indians, especially those in the IT field. They will now find it difficult to go to work in the United Kingdom. New regulations say they cannot be allowed into the country unless the job they have been offered monetarily is at least £30,000. That's about 37,000 US dollars. Now, this is an increase of about 48% over the previous requirement. The rules were announced in March after a report by the Migration Advisory Committee. The report called for curbing the entry of foreign workers so to make sure there is some kind of incentives for British workers. Visa reforms were at the top of the agenda during British Prime Minister Theresa May's recent trip to India. So to get more clarification on this story, a huge topic, let's go to our guest live now from London, Josh Harbord, a campaign manager. Josh, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate that. Let's first, we also have our London Bureau Chief, Mandy Clark, to bring us that perspective. Mandy, we'll get to you in just a moment. But first, let's go back to Josh. Josh, what impacts could this measure have on the United Kingdom? Quite a significant move.
Yeah, absolutely. It comes as part of a collection of other anti-immigration measures that are certainly going to damage public services in the immediate future. In the medium to long term, it's going to have an impact on recruitment internationally and international interest in businesses operating in the UK. The Tier 2 intercompany transfer that they're talking about means literally people moving employees in and out of the country, working for the same company as they do in other countries already. You see what I mean?
Josh, you brought up a good point about the presence of many global companies, certainly outsourcing, and in the field of IT, you have a lot of global presence between India and, of course, the United Kingdom. What type of a precedent does this set, and could this mean job cuts, job losses? Where are we looking on the economic front there?
It's worth bearing in mind that every single Tier 2 migrant in the UK has only come here because it's been demonstrated after a month of research on behalf of the company that employs them every single time that no one in the UK is available or suitable to do the job. So in the case of specifically the Indian population, there are 30,000 people on a Tier 2 visa from India specifically who will have to leave the UK or who will not be replaced by people coming into the UK. So yeah, it's going to make it much harder for businesses to operate in. And obviously, since it's been proven that no UK workers can fill the role, massively more difficult.
And employment, a huge issue. Josh, thanks for those updates. We're going to get back to you in just a moment, but let's now go over to our London Bureau Chief, Mandy Clark, who's joining us now via phone to bring us perspective on this story. Mandy, certainly another hot button issue. We know Theresa May was in India not too long ago. This was one of the things that she talked with Modi. What's the mood like there? How's the reaction with this new announcement?
Well, the mood in Britain is that this is overall for the general public a welcome move, because one of their big issues and the ongoing gripes is to curb migration. Now, it's not meant to specifically target these South Asians in the mindset of the Brits. They just very much want to control their borders, and this is seen as a move that will give them more control of their borders. It is a quite wide-ranging move. It not only affects, of course, the work visa that you're describing. There's other parts of this new plan that will also see changes in the number of international students that will be allowed into Britain. So that will also affect Indian students coming in.
Mandy, you brought up a good perspective about, the future of migration in the UK. Certainly, this is an issue that we've been seeing even in the United States. What about other immigrant, sectors, not just IT? What type of a precedence does this set for other fields, for those who are either working there or hoping to study in the United Kingdom? This new effect that goes into validation today.
Well, exactly. This it sets it largely what's seen as a fairly bad precedent for people who are experts in immigration, because the policy that the British government is pushing out is that they want the really high-skilled top talent coming in. They don't want low-skilled workers, and that's how they judge this threshold of £30,000, or as we said, $37,000. So, however, Britain would essentially stop functioning if we didn't have foreign workers doing lower-skilled work. So it is a bit of a misnomer. I spoke to one expert. They said essentially London would stop working even if all the foreign workers left and all the unemployed people took their jobs. There would still be a massive gap of workers. So it seems that it doesn't reflect reality when it comes to this move will affect the British economy. They need these lower-skilled workers. And overall, these workers come from all over, as you said, not just South Asia, but they come from Eastern Europe. They come from all over the place. So it has a negative impact for the economy and for the foreign workers coming in.
All right, Mandy Clark, we'll get back to you in a moment, but now we're going to bring in our correspondent from New Delhi, Jessica Taneja, who joined us now live from the newsroom. Jessica, thanks for joining us. I understand you've actually lived in the UK, so you can relate to both sides of this equation. You've worked there. You've also obviously understood the demographic as someone who is an immigrant. What type of a reaction is this going to set off for Indians who call the United Kingdom home, knowing that they have to meet this tier now so that they do get visas to work in the United Kingdom?
Well, while I was there, it was already problematic for a lot of students who were studying there and expected to work after, paying a huge amount to the education sector in the United Kingdom, and thought they would sort of translate that and get some experience. But now, since that move came in 2012, this is just another addition to the problems that even the IT sector is going to face. While there are many things that come under the immigration issues, this looks like the Brexit fear is actually growing. Earlier, even as students, we would find it very difficult to find a job in the United Kingdom because the preference first was for the nationals, and then the EU nationals, and then the other non-EU nationals would be preferred, so to say. Archit.
Jessica, you brought up a good point about the student population. Many of those who choose to go to the United Kingdom to study, this certainly impacts the Indians in the field of IT. But what about some of the other fields? Do you anticipate that this could perhaps limit the number of opportunities for many people from not just here, but other countries who choose to go there because of this fear possibly of migrants or foreigners coming in to either study or take up some of the jobs that people there do not want to give out to outsiders?
Well, this does seem to be a move that is going to limit possibilities for a lot of students who plan to study and work further. And given the fact that many students who are going to study in UK are now looking at other countries instead of United Kingdom, which was initially the preference for a lot of students going specifically from India and China, if I may mention. But we've seen a gradual decline of students who are now going to study in UK, but have now started going to other European countries, maybe even Germany or France, or the United States is more preferable than United Kingdom. Just because there are no work experience, there's no work experience that they can actually take away. And that's actually adding to a lot of problems for them. And Indian students would now go to countries, for example, the United States, which allows you to work for an additional 2 years after you finish studying.
So you're saying someone else's loss could be somebody else's gain, but let's real quickly bring our viewers into perspective about the tier system, how the visas are allocated since you've worked there and lived there. Maybe break it down, the tier 1, the tier 2, the tier 3. Who falls in, who gets impacted? Jessica, if you can sort of summarize that for us, please.
Well, the tier 1 is basically for the entrepreneurs and businessmen who are actually going out for business prospects. And for tier 2 are obviously the ICT. For tier 4, there are students who are going to study. And now they can, since the course is just for 1 year, I would like to specifically elaborate on the student visa, which is rather coming under the radar, so to say, when visas are looked at. And they can only work, since the course is for 1 year, they're only allowed a maximum of 5 months. And I haven't seen many students in the United Kingdom being able to, make it more productive, since they have to leave or get a sponsorship, which is additionally very expensive for the companies who are sponsoring Indian students there.
All right, Jessica Taneja, we'll check back with you in a moment. Let's go back to Josh now, who is also in London to give us perspective on this. Josh, if we can bring you back into the conversation, let's talk about the United States possibly gaining from this. If the UK, with these changes coming in, with specifically the curbing of the Tier 2 system, could this mean a boost for jobs and migrants, perhaps shifting gears, going to other countries in Europe, even the United States?
Yep, I should definitely think so. It won't be like much of a tangible boost because there's only at most tens of thousands of migrants coming to the UK under a Tier 2 visa system. So if they all dispersed around every other country that wants them, yeah, it won't be massive difference for anyone who isn't paying attention.
What about the Indians who are there right now? What is the immediate impact that they're going to see? The parents, some of their the dependents, the relatives who are there. I understand this will, as it goes into effect, there's going to be repercussions in the coming months. What's sort of the timeline? Sort of give us a picture of where all of this maps out now that this has gone into effect, especially for those who are below that salary level, that £30,000.
Yeah, the 30,000 is, I think, for people specifically looking to arrive in the UK. In April, they introduced a 35,000 threshold for people intending to remain in the UK who are already here. And for them, it's been a mad scramble of immigration bureaucracy, job hunting, people resorting to really quite desperate measures in lots of instances. We've been hearing about, on the website stop35k.org, been hearing about a lot of heartbreak and really heart-wrenching stories of families being split apart, husbands having to leave wives, and so on.
And this might be a little bit too early to guess at this point, but do we know if any of those employers possibly, I know IT specifically, does have the opportunity to work from home, work remotely, outsource those jobs? So those who are on a visa, who are working in the UK, if they are asked to leave or they don't meet that criteria, could they still keep their job, perhaps working in India or another part of the world? Or is it just, at this point, just speculation, too early to tell?
Yeah, I think it's too early to tell. I mean, maybe in some instances it'll be feasible, but certainly not all of them. And, you know, working remotely on literally the other side of the world in a largely different time zone, it's not sustainable, certainly.
All right, Josh, we appreciate your inputs. Let's go back to Mandy Clark now, who has been gathering information, talking to experts, including those who are on the streets of London as well, to get that perspective. Mandy, quite an interesting move as well. You know, we heard from Jessica earlier that this could mean a boost in other parts of Europe. It could also mean impacts to other countries like the United States. The fact that there could be public anger against immigration post-Brexit, is that what you're gathering from the people that you've talked to on the ground? Are people just, we want to keep the jobs here, we want to keep it for the locals, but that means somebody else could benefit from that ultimately?
Yeah, I think overall in the mood of the country, you're noticing a more insular, more protective feeling. And, you know, just recently in the States, that has that same more inward-looking emotion in the country. They want to protect themselves. They want to protect their jobs. But speaking to the experts, it's actually more damaging. Brexit will cost the British economy. Losing talent, losing innovators, losing the global community will ultimately damage Britain. But at the moment, the public isn't really thinking about that. They really want to they protect their jobs. And London is a bit of a bubble because it is a very international city. But when you go outside London, you get a sense that people do feel that Britain is overcrowded and they just want to take back control. So they're not necessarily thinking of the ramifications to the economy when this came through. They're just thinking of themselves, really.
And besides IT, do we know any of the other fields where there is a sizable immigrant population, not just with Indians, but other minority groups in the UK that could unfortunately bear the brunt and sort of be the precedent that this is setting? They could be sort of the next victims, if we have to call it that. What are some of the other major industries in the UK that, besides IT, have a significant immigrant population?
Well, a lot of the service sector certainly has a very large immigrant population. You see people from all over the world in hotels, in restaurants. It's the public face is very much an international face. It will be a big loss to the service sector and also in manufacturing. There are certain also specialized skills with certain manufacturing that is imported from Europe, and that you will start losing those skill sets. These are European countries outside the EU, of course. So those types of manufacturing and service sector will also be greatly damaged because £30,000 is a lot of money to be expected to make, even initially. So those are the type of sectors that you will notice will be affected by this new rule.
All right, Mandy, thank you for that perspective. Let's now bring back Jessica Taneja into the conversation. She's joining us from the WION newsroom. Jessica, this implementation that's happening right now could also have repercussions. Certainly not everybody, especially those in the service sector, even the IT field, may not make that £30,000. Could also have the cost of certain other goods go up. Do we anticipate that? Do we have any more clarity on some of the repercussions, even if it means preserving jobs for locals? Could the cost go up indirectly for those who are still there? Jessica, I'm not sure if you heard my question. I'll repeat the question. Jessica, bringing you back into the conversation. As we mentioned earlier, Jessica has lived there, has worked there. With this change, Jessica, you're able to, not sure if you can hear us. All right, so we're having some technical problems with Jessica. We'll bring her back in just a moment. Let's go back to Josh. Again, Josh, while we get back, Jessica, let me bring you into the conversation. Let's talk about the skill set, the pool of talent in the UK, not just in London, the bubble, as being such a big metropolitan city. Is there enough talent locally that can fill the void? The reason one can presume is because of there wasn't enough talent, so they've had to bring in immigrants, which is the case in many foreign countries. But banning this or putting this limitation, will they be able to fill these jobs with local talent? Are they ready? Are they skilled?
In the cases of both nursing and teaching, the answer is absolutely they are not ready. Not at all. Nursing has actually been declared a shortage occupation, which means that any immigrants applying to the UK to become a nurse in the UK will be exempt from these thresholds because they are so urgently needed, and they're never going to earn £30,000. Same with teaching. Teaching is maybe about to be declared a shortage occupation, which will mean nearly 8,000 teachers in the UK get to remain in their jobs. And if they have to suddenly leave over the next 4 years, there is no way that the Department for Education has enough training schemes in place to replace them.
All right, Josh, I understand that we do have Jessica now back in the newsroom. Jessica, let's bring you back into the conversation. Earlier, I was asking you about the skill set there, but do we have other repercussions that this could bring? Certainly not everybody in every sector, especially in the service industry, is going to make £30,000 or about $37,000 US. Could this impact people who live in the UK in other ways? Cost of living go up because of this new mandate?
Well, I happened to read a couple of newspapers, and it says that the sentiments of the local people is actually quite sore, and they say that they are locally trained professionals, right? And putting a salary bar of £30,000 even for them, or even for the nurses, so to say, is going to impact them majorly. And yes, even when it comes to low-skilled workers, United Kingdom is heavily dependent on low-skilled workers, which make up for a lot of immigrants settled in the United Kingdom. So I do feel that this is going to create a major ripple of sorts if these norms come in force.
All right, Jessica, one more question to you. We talked about this earlier. You lived in the UK. What was it like, obviously, a few years ago? Do you think that, at least for the immigrant population, not just in IT, but some of the other fields, this is going to set like a precedent not only in the UK, but other countries as well, sort of this whole staying insular, not expanding and getting out? Or do you don't think this is going to deter them from going to other places? Do you feel like it's just UK, or is this going to be more of a global a domino effect?
Well, there cannot be it cannot be said much. I mean, much cannot be said about the domino effect, certainly, Archit. But yes, within the United Kingdom, the sentiment is really, as I mentioned, felt very differently, because there have been people who have been contributing to the United Kingdom's economy for so long, and now, I mean, there's another addition to this. The families and their partners who are settled in the United Kingdom will have to give an English proficiency test as per the new rules, which has added another trouble because they're not native English speakers, and they need to pass this test. If they have to live in the United Kingdom, apart from this, even the skilled workers face quite a lot of troubles. If this comes to force, I'm sure most of them might want to migrate to other European countries, which would happily welcome low-skilled workers.
All right, and last question, we're going to bring it back. The perspective about jobs, the economy, a huge talking point. Many companies do look at markets like the UK, look at markets like the US to set up shop. And this news with the limitation of the visa regulations could certainly limit that. It could mean that many companies like Wipro, companies based out of India, may no longer be able to continue services there or simply shut down. What are the implications specifically in the IT sector?
Well, the Migration Advisory Committee that has come out with the new visa rules has actually said that almost 90% of IT professionals contribute to the United Kingdom's IT industry. And if this is sort of added, a lot can change in the future. And given that other IT companies, not just Wipro, I mean, looking at others as well, it could just create a lot of problems for the United Kingdom, because their initial plan is to train their own natives, so to say. But that will obviously, involve a lot of, it will come with a lot of cost. And here you're getting trained IT professionals directly from India. So yes, looking at the long-term repercussions, there could be many. Archit.
All right, Jessica, we appreciate your input. Let's get a quick final reaction now from Josh. Let's see what you have to say. Sort of wrapping this up, is it a surprise move, or is this something that was expected after Brexit? Because for many people, even Brexit came as a bit of a surprise, or is this just sort of the price that people have to pay?
Well, yeah, Brexit was quite a surprise. But no, it's part of an increasing atmosphere of hostility towards immigrants in the UK. The £35,000 settlement threshold and the £30,000 entry threshold were both announced years ago by the Home Office when Theresa May was in charge and Home Secretary. I think looking into the future, it's only really going to get worse now that she's Prime Minister. Yeah.
All right, Josh, we appreciate that input. We'll have to just wait and watch for the repercussions, but we appreciate you joining us and providing us that perspective. Josh Harbert joining us from the UK, also Mandy Clark, our correspondent, and Jessica Taneja. We appreciate your input. Thank you so much for joining us. That is our bulletin for right now. I'm Archit Seshadri. We'll see you soon.